Good morning, everyone. My name is Hunter Hamberlin. I'm the Director of State Affairs for the Taxpayers Protection Alliance. TPA is a nonprofit, nonpartisan taxpayer and consumer watchdog organization that seeks to hold the government accountable with its lawmaking. I want to thank you all for the ability to testify today. I appreciate you guys reconvening so that we could all give our testimony here. We want to encourage you guys to pass HJR 174. I'm going to try to do my best and not repeat what the other testifiers say for the sake of time, but we think phasing out the income tax as a taxpayer group is the right thing to do. And I'm going to build my testimony on what Grover Norquist said earlier this morning, is that Missouri is in a good position to phase out their income tax, but you guys are near a lot of states that have very, very competitive tax codes. I'm originally from Tennessee, and I currently live in Houston, Texas right now, so I haven't had to deal with an income tax in the last 10 years of my life, but it's not even just those two states. You also have to consider Florida, which is pretty far from Missouri. But then, like Grover said, Mississippi just passed a bill last year to phase out their income tax by, I think, 2029. Georgia just ran a study committee this past summer to also study the effects of phasing out their income tax over time. So while Missouri, you guys aren't Illinois, you guys are not in Massachusetts, you guys are not in California when it comes to tax policy, you guys are, respectfully, I would say you guys are middle of the pack. But if you guys do not do something like phase the income tax or do something of that nature to make your tax code more competitive, then you guys might get left behind and you guys might end up with a tax code that is one of the least competitive in the nation. And Representative Kimball, Representative Butts, you guys seem to have you guys seem to disagree with this bill a lot. And I think your concerns are valid. Representative Kimball, earlier this morning, you mentioned triggers. You mentioned how Kansas did it wrong and they had like a kind of an issue on their hands a while back. That is something that I think you guys can more than work through. And I think that's something that is definitely in the conversation of what you guys need to be talking about to make sure you guys can implement a phase out of the income tax without having any deficits or something like that. And I agree with you, Representative Butts. I don't think a zero income tax is the main reason people are moving to certain states. But in my opinion, I think it's top 5 for sure. I just got married. My wife's about to have a baby, so we're not thinking of phasing out the income tax is not the first thing we think about when we're moving. I'm thinking about school districts. I'm thinking about infrastructure. I'm thinking about how safe it is to live in a certain area. But the conversation right after that with my wife is, well, what place has no income tax? Because I used to live in D.C. for about 3 years, and when I moved from the D.C. area to Houston, Texas, it considerably raised my standard of living. And standard of living is different in each state, and each state has different costs for goods and services, but it raised my standard of living when I moved from the DC area to Texas. And, we talk about, we want to reduce the tax burden, but, one of the other main reasons to phase out the income tax is to attract new businesses and stuff like that. So being from Memphis, everybody moved to Nashville once they got their degree, living somewhere else in the Southeast. They target like Nashville, Houston, they target all those cities that are big, and they also target those cities that are in states that have zero income tax. And we don't have to just think about the low-income folks, which we definitely need to consider them heavily when we think about phasing out the income tax. But, we talk about attracting new people to the state. We're not just talking about billionaires and millionaires. There's not a lot of those folks. We're talking about the Henrys, and when I say Henrys, I mean high earners, not rich yet. Sounds a little goofy, but, this is for another hearing. I'd make the argument that Henrys get taxed the most federally and at the state level, but I'm not here to make that argument.
Thank you. We'll see if we can get you some more time. Looks like you're going to get that, Representative Kimball.
Thank you.
You've been going for
appreciate you reaching out to the office before, by the way, and congrats on the baby. My wife and I are a very similar stage of life, so I can certainly relate to Henrys and Nicks getting taxed more than wealthy folks. I definitely agree with that. Honestly, we agree on the income tax thing, right? We want more money in our pockets. It's how do we skin the cat? Those states you mentioned, right? They have higher sales tax. Texas has oil, gas. There's different corporate and business taxes. So
Florida has tourism. Texas has oil and gas. Yeah,
correct. Yep. As much as I love going to the Lake of the Ozarks, it's not the beach, right? So it sounds like you are in favor of other forms of taxation to ensure that folks pay. You mentioned millionaires and billionaires. I agree. I think the argument for the capital gains tax that we heard in this committee in this same room last year was we're going to have Henry's, we're going to have millionaires, billionaires, people coming here for tax havens, investing in the state, growing jobs, which we all want. But you're for other forms of taxation as long as the income tax is eliminated.
As a taxpayer advocacy group, I'm never going to say that we're for other forms of taxation.
Not for you and me, but for other corporations.
So y'all know as lawmakers, when it comes to changing the tax policy, they're trade-offs. Let's call them trade-offs. We are for making trade-offs to make sure that we phase out the income tax.
Okay.
Without telling you I'm for other taxes being raised.
No, I get it. We all have answers.
Representative Butts, please proceed.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Just to acknowledge on the phasing out of the income tax. So we are and have been phasing out the income tax in Missouri. I don't know why that doesn't get repeated. We are and we have. It was 6, now it's 4.7. We have triggers that are not indexed, so the same trigger that was applicable in 2017 is still applicable in 2026, a defect in that trigger, but we do have triggers, so we are phasing out the income tax. Then when we eliminate capital gains, Social Security, and SALT, we have been, in the 8 years I've been here, and I'm not saying it's a bad thing, I'm saying it's a good thing. I'm saying let it work out through, but I just would like the acknowledgement that we have been phasing out income taxes, Missouri income taxes, to Missourians.
Yeah, I'll acknowledge that. You guys are. And I sent in written testimony that, acknowledges that you guys are phasing out the income tax. We just would like for it to get to zero.
Okay, I hear you. I just wanted that on the record that you know that we are doing that.
Yep.
So appreciate that. Thanks, Mr. Speaker.
Rep. Manser, please proceed.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Just inquire. I think part of the argument I think you're making is that by zeroing out income tax, we're going to there's going to be a massive flow of businesses and investment. What is your perspective on the impact on seniors who live on limited incomes? And, the median income in Missouri is $68,000. There are many parts in the state where the median income is significantly lower than that. So those individuals will spend more for daily needs. And I'm not talking frivolous stuff like dog grooming. I mean, I have a dog, I wash her in the bathtub. So I'm talking about basic stuff. So can you I hear your perspective from this is what, young people want, and this is where new business is going to come from. I don't think we've been seeing this, even though we've been making changes to the tax code. We're not seeing a massive influx, and I think there are a lot of other reasons contributing to that. But tell me how you view the impact on the majority of Missourians who will see their daily living costs rise.
So, Representative, when it comes to the impact on seniors, I don't want to lie to you and act like I have something prepared for that. I don't. I'm happy to follow up with you and send you some information on that once I consult with my team. But I mean, if their daily expenses rise, I still think, I still think if they do attract businesses and other types of, corporations that will bring in jobs, I do eventually think that people will start to move here. Maybe St. Louis turns into Nashville. Maybe it turns into like the next Austin or something like that. It's not going to happen, very quickly. It's going to happen over a certain amount of years. But I do think that is something that it's more of a wait and see. And that's probably not an answer you wanted to hear, but it's something that we have to wait and see for it to actually happen over a certain period of time.
So I think my second question is really because you referenced Nashville. So I've been hearing a lot about Nashville lately.
Rep. Manser, we are over time, so if you could just be brief.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So what I understand is 65% of the state's revenue comes from sales taxes. Cost of housing is higher. Mm-hmm. Average cost of housing is higher than Missouri. Taxes make up a bigger portion. So talk to me about that trade-off.
About trading off paying more in sales taxes compared to income tax?
And higher cost of housing and more taxes on daily living.
Well, when it comes to the higher cost of living in these areas, I think that's just, supply and demand. Nashville's very popular. People want to move there, and people, developers, other people in Nashville, people that have businesses in Nashville, they know that. So I think, if like Missouri were to phase out its income tax and a city like St. Louis were to turn into Nashville, that's definitely something that you guys have to keep your eye on. That's definitely something that would probably happen in a city like St. Louis. Then when it comes to kind of shifting the burden from like income to sales tax, yeah, more than likely, in the ways I've seen it, in the states that I've seen it, you guys are going to probably have to raise your sales tax. I live in Texas right now, so our sales tax is 7%, which is higher than I think average states, but it's still lower than places like Tennessee and Florida. But we make up for that by paying more on our property taxes. And then I'm not privy to how they do it in Florida. I apologize, but people are going to be paying more for goods every day. But I think overall, the effects of phasing out your income tax are going to be more positive than negative, even though people will have to pay more in sales taxes if you guys do raise the sales tax to like kind of have that trade-off.
So Texas is capped at 7%? Is that what you're saying?
I don't think it's capped at 7%. I'm in Houston and it's 7%, so I just kind of go off.
Yeah, the state of Missouri has like hundreds, if not 1,000 different sales tax rates. So, I mean, consistency across the board would be a little bit better.
And it would be easier for taxpayers as well and less burdensome.
If California's got the highest income tax in the nation, why are they attempting to tax the billionaires by an additional 5%?
I think, so I've never been to California. I want to.
Okay. Well, if you don't have information.
Well, I think California is a very sought-after place to live. I understand if you lean more to the right, maybe you don't think that, but if you lean more to the left, you might think that. But I think California has a lot going for it. It's the third largest economy in the world. I mean, you have Silicon Valley. You have a bunch of high earners there, and I think it's just a very sought-after place to live.
Okay. Thank you very much. Next.